songs, let me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
That community connections piece is a really big part of what my team does. We talk a lot, when we do planning about urban loneliness and folks who don't know their neighbors downtown, because it's just not how a lot of downtown spaces are structured. So we really do try to provide programming for people to make connections with one another.
All right, we are live again. We have got an exciting show for you today. I'm personally going to enjoy this one. Well, I enjoy all of them, but I get to go back into my older days and reminisce with Kristina. We have a similar background. So if you have any kids in cheerleading, we're going to chat about that a little bit today because we were both cheerleaders and coached and all that fun stuff. But before we start talking about that, let me go ahead and, well, first of all, welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Part of the DPRS Media Network. The show you're watching right now is called Leadership Series, and it's where we find Parks and Rec professionals across the country and highlight their journeys into Parks and Recreation, talk about their why, and why Parks and Rec is so valuable to them and the benefit that they see both in their own personal lives, but also that they're seeing in the community, because these are the community builders of America. Like, officially, that's what they get paid to do, build community. And did you know you can get a full-time job doing this? For all of you kids that are lifeguarding right now that have no idea this is a full-time job, it still amazes me how many Parks and Rec volunteers and coaches and let's see, after-school care counselors. I mean, there's like a huge population of young kids that this is their first job, and they're still have no idea this is a full-time job for many adults throughout the country. So we're trying to spread the word about that. All right, so let's kind of go through the rundown. So this is a 12 noon show, Monday through Thursday, Eastern time. And then on Friday, we have one of our latest shows. It's called the Director Pepper Club. And this is a group of very talented Parks and Rec directors based in Southern California that have just been having a really good club. And Papa Jay, who's on the verge of retirement, I think any moment now. He is also a very talented content creator, and so he picked up that 12 noon time slot on Fridays. All right, so then on our 1:30 time slot, on the second and fourth Mondays, we have the Parks and not Parks and Tech Collective. That's our other Monday show, which I need to announce. But Dave Ramirez does a Smart Parks Forward, and it's where we talk about all the technology that's coming in on the infrastructure side so that our cities, I don't know if you know this, many of our Parks and Rec departments are becoming smart parks. And when I say smart parks, I mean they can control all of their infrastructure, whether it's bathroom door locks or splash pads or security lights or baseball field lights, all through like an app on your phone or desktop. So that's a really cool show. Then on Tuesdays, every single Tuesday, since the first Tuesday of this year in January, we started creating content for the Military Rec. And so it's called the Military Rec Show on the Front Line with Jonathan Prue. And I'm not sure if the regular citizens know, but every military base across the world has a Parks and Rec department, and where they basically run Parks and Rec for our soldiers and their families and their children, and so it's a really good show, and I think needs a lot more attention. So that's why we have a weekly show dedicated to them. Big shout out to John for helping us put that on. Then on Wednesdays, we produce two shows once a month. On the first, Thomas White from Henry County, Georgia, talks about mental health, neurodivergence, and how Parks and Rec plays a vital role in creating a healthy community with strong mental health. So that's a really great show. That was his idea, and so we're helping him produce it. But he does a great job, and there's obviously a lot of subject matter there. We're looking at pushing that show up to twice a month, so hopefully we can get 24 shows around that topic. Then on the second Wednesday of every month, we produce a show called The Rec Room, and this is where a very well put together, very well run Parks and Rec department, Henry County, Georgia, picks a topic of There's so many things in Parks and Rec that we do. So whether it's like a farmer's market or financials, master planning, or facilities maintenance, and they get all their team players on there and just go really deep, kind of pull the curtain back and see how a well-run Parks and Rec department handles all these issues. Then that brings us to Thursday, our oldest running show aside from this one. This is the Youth Sports Mastery Show with our host, Aaron Locks. Aaron has been in rec sports for over 40 years. He's got to be one of the most connected people in America when it comes to rec sports. He knows so many professional athletes, coaches, athletic directors, officials, and it's all about rec sports and how, Parks and Rec runs inclusive rec sports that's open for everybody, not just catering to the gifted potential D1 athletes, but all the children that participate in rec sports and the value that brings to their life and the community. So that's a fantastic show every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then our only evening show for now is at 5 p.m. It's called the Young Professionals Network. And so there are growing Young Professionals Network at the state level, at the national level. And this is all the college students that are studying to be a Parks and Rec professional. It's also about people that are new to this industry in your first 1 to 5 years, and you're trying to figure out what Parks and Rec is. It's like drinking from 20 different fire hoses, trying to get your head on straight about Parks and Rec. But also we opened it up to professors that teach at the university level, mentors that mentor young professionals. And one of our greatest populations for the show is if you have a strong internship program and you'd like to bring yourself and maybe some of your interns and talk about your internship program where we're actually helping to train the next leaders in Parks and Rec, that's your show. And then one of our also latest additions, I say latest additions, I think we're on show number 11 coming up on this Friday, is All Things Aquatics with our very talented host, Wesley King. And so we all know how aquatics is a beast when it comes to the part of Parks and Rec that they are. A lot of money is spent on Parks and Rec, but we're teaching life-saving skills. And if you know anybody in aquatics, I promise you, just go to our YouTube channel, click any of the content we produce on aquatics, and they're going to get something out of it. You could really use this as a free continuing education around aquatics. We talk about lifeguard training, keeping your lifeguards, opening day, pool safety. I mean, you name it. He has created 10 amazing episodes, and we're doing one every week. Then in June, let's see, the first and third week of June, we are launching Arts in Parks and Rec with our very talented host, Beatrice out of Southern California. So that's coming on. And then we also have another Monday show. It's called, let me see if I get the logo right. Sorry, we got so many shows coming up. We're coming up with a script for everybody. But this is going to be Parks and Tech Collective. And we talk about software in Parks and Rec. And so that's going to be first Mondays of the month at the 1:30 p.m. time slot. So we're filling out that whole 24/7 loop, similar to what you see on the major news networks and ESPN, except we're talking about our favorite topic, which is Parks and Rec and all the different parts of it. So let's go ahead and play our transition, and we will come back with our special guest today, Kristina Anderson from Minneapolis, Minnesota. There's a lot of great stuff going on in Minnesota, and I'm so glad that we get to highlight it. And so Carla, why don't you go ahead and play those two promos, and we'll come back and start our conversation with Kristina.
It's not just water. It's responsibility. It's leadership. It's not just drowning prevention or water safety. It's life. And every day, aquatics professionals make decisions that save lives. Because aquatics is more than swim lessons. It's community, it's creativity, it's impact. For over 30 years, aquatics hasn't just been my profession, it's been my life. I've seen the challenges, the pressure, the grind, but I've also seen the power of great leadership and what happens when communities come together. This is where education meets entertainment, where real conversations happen, where aquatics professionals come together to learn, lead, and grow. Because aquatics should bring people together. This is Aquatics Life, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
All right, Kristina, great to have you on the show today. I don't know how we're going to fit all this in 1 hour. We might have to do a part two.
I love it. Thanks for having me, Craig. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's go back into your backstory. I know this is where we have a similar background. Tell us about your first exposure to Parks and Recreation, like back in the high school days, or maybe even sooner than that.
Yeah, thanks for that. I've been involved with parks and recreation activities my whole life, being involved with skating and volleyball and soccer and, as a participant. And then I became a skating instructor when I was in high school. And then when I went to college, being involved in college athletics and working in campus recreation. It was sort of, I felt like it was a path I was destined for, was to end up in recreation, but I did take a turn. I have a little bit of a non-traditional route actually to what a lot of my colleagues have here at Minneapolis Park and Rec. I worked full-time for 15 years with the University of Minnesota's Spirit Squad. So my cheerleading background, I coached cheerleading at the college level. I was very involved in the ins and outs of operations within that program. And 3 years ago was looking for a move. I've got 3 little kids and, working in college athletics, you're traveling all the time and your nights and weekends at sporting events. And it felt like a natural progression for me having that background in Parks and Recreation as a younger person, coming back into Parks and Rec now. So it's been a really fun trajectory for me. I really loved your intro when you were talking about leaders and encouraging young folks maybe who do this work part-time, that this could actually be a full-time job. And I definitely feel that.
Yeah, definitely.
To that.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, part of my story was similar to Kristina's. I was a Kentucky cheerleader. I got recruited from Louisiana Tech to be part of their championship squad. And then I went and worked for UCA for a few years, where they flew me all over the country to teach college cheerleaders how to do what we do. And then when I came back, I worked at a gymnastics, and I was kind of like their head cheerleader coach. And I worked with LSU cheerleaders and just all the high schools and stuff. And I was telling Kristina, I was like, I don't know anybody that got like halfway into cheerleading. It kind of just consumes your life. And you were the head coach for which university?
University of Minnesota. Yeah, I was a cheer coach there and a director of operations.
Yeah.
So 18 years I spent in total with the University of Minnesota. And a fun fact about that, actually cheerleading was invented at the University of Minnesota. There's some fun inventions that have come out of Minnesota, Post-it notes and microwave popcorn and Honeycrisp apple and all kinds of fun stuff. But cheerleading is my favorite thing to have come out of Minnesota. So
yeah. And I don't know if you know this. Did you know UCA made like professional squads? Was it last year? Did you hear about that?
I heard about that. I did hear about that. Yeah. I still have a lot of friends that are very involved in the world. Me too. For those who don't speak cheerleading or aren't a part of the world, Craig's background is very impressive in cheerleading. So very fun to have those paths cross.
Yeah. Kentucky, I didn't know at the time was, when I got into it, I just had a high school friend of mine said, hey, we need more guys on the squad. And she convinced me and about 10 other guys to join the high school squad. And then I was going to get a javelin scholarship. But my cheerleading scholarship was like 6 times bigger. And so I was like, I had no idea you could pay for your school through cheerleading. But there are some universities that give full rides out there to cheerleaders.
And I actually coach hockey cheerleading, which is something that people are like, what in the world is that? If you don't live in Minnesota,
Right.
cheerleaders that go on the ice, they figure skate, they perform, they take skates off, go in the stands, cheer in the stands. So our spirit squad at the University of Minnesota was like 80 athletes. We had at one point 5 different teams that made up one program.
Yeah.
So it was a really big program and a really rich history at Minnesota. So
Yeah. So how do you describe coaching cheerleaders to the rest of the world? Because there's a lot of coaches that pay, especially with our Youth Sports Mastery show. But typically they're coaching like the traditional sports of baseball and football or something like that. How do you describe coaching cheerleaders to the rest of the world?
Cheerleading is a really interesting sport because there's an element of pageantry where it's about what you bring to other games, right? Sideline cheerleading, where football and basketball and hockey and other sports where you bring the pageantry piece of the game. But there's also a side of cheerleading that's competitive, right? And that has grown immensely in the last 15 to 20 years. And competitive cheerleading is its own sport. And these athletes train really hard. It looks really easy. I think when people see cheerleaders on the sideline, they think, oh, that just waving their arms around. But it's actually incredibly challenging. It's a lot of practice and time dedicated to training that goes into, making it look easy. So as coaching cheerleading, as far as that comes, it's a duality, right? There's 2 different sides of it, and making sure that our presence, whenever we're stepping out, we're always looking prepared and ready to go. And I really feel like that experience especially coaching cheerleading, really prepared me for the professional world, for the work I do now in Park and Rec. I do a lot of work with downtown partners in Minneapolis and really restoring and revitalizing our downtown spaces. I'm sure we'll get into talking about this, but downtown Minneapolis has been hit especially hard. COVID, I think, affected a lot of major urban metro areas. We had George Floyd here in Minneapolis. And the time that occurred after that, just downtown in general, how that really shaped our downtown spaces. More recently, having Operation Metro Surge here in the Twin Cities, like how that really impacts the businesses that are downtown. Parks play a big role in that, right? Yeah. We help frame out the perception that the public has about downtown spaces. And so I really feel like cheerleading and coaching cheerleading prepared me for the work that I do now, working with so many community partners and business leaders in the city. So yeah, really, I love that I have that experience. It really, I think, shaped me as a professional and helps still to this day play a part of my life.
Yeah, you never see a sad cheerleader. They're like perpetually high energy, always excited to be there, getting everybody fired up. And it was just, I don't know, just part of the culture. And then that kind of sticks with you for the rest of your life.
It really does. I was thinking, like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? That feeling. But like, truly, I think that cheerleading teaches you that you're looking on the bright side of things, right? You're always trying to find the positive, and you're trying to find that way. I really feel like every single person in life needs their own personal cheerleader. They need somebody to cheer them on and encourage them. And it's great. I love it. Yeah. And I love that we ran into that when we were having our conversation about our backgrounds. So
yeah, I used to throw around girls for a living. I think the only thing I could do after that, if I wanted to stay with it, was like to go join the circus.
And you probably could, because it takes that level of talent to do what you do and make it look easy as a cheerleader. So
and I've seen a lot of Parks and Rec departments offer, as part of their programming, gymnastics, cheerleading, art. It's pretty much endless, the programs you can offer that benefit your community. It's really almost the sky's the limit if you want to organize it, and if the community's interested, that you can do STEM programs, you can do, and I'm so glad we get to highlight this part of Minneapolis, because they've just been in the news for all the wrong reasons. And I'm like, no, wait, there's a thriving part of Minneapolis that you don't know about. So let's talk about it, get the word out.
Got to talk about all the good stuff. There's so many good things happening in Minneapolis. And I have a whole social media team that I put together. Their work is all centered around just informing the public and showing people all the cool stuff that happens in Minneapolis, and specifically in downtown Minneapolis. So Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's talk about one of the things that I ran into with y'all is a Spark Studio, and
Mhm.
so typically the hardest demographic for every Parks and Rec department across America is that teenage group. I mean, we just like lose our teenagers for like a decade before they have like a child, and then they come back in playing on the playgrounds and enrolling their children. But y'all have found a way to create a thriving. I mean, after 1,200 interviews, I would say Minneapolis may have the most thriving teen community in the country. And if someone else is out there with something that's bigger or better, please come on the show. But right now, I think y'all are killing it. Can y'all tell us a little bit more about the Spark Studio?
Yeah. So I have one Spark Studio location in one of my parks, but there are several throughout our system. It is free for Minneapolis residents, youth art programming at my park. So Graco Park, the River Hub building, my team activates and programs half, and the Spark Studios activates and operates the other half. So they have, a recording studio, laser engravers, all kinds of technology. I know that they've specialized. They're doing a learn how to DJ class right now for teens. They do, tactile art. And what's really great about having that partnership, my department is visitor services. I operate out of like a customer service wing of the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, which has like 2,000 to 3,000 employees. Like we're a really big park and rec agency. We're huge. And so I'm really lucky because I don't do a lot of partnering with our recreation department. And Spark Studios is a really great way for us to partner and work together and draw on each other's audiences that we've built over time. That DJ class that they're hosting right now on June 10th, which is right as the school year is wrapping up, we're going to be hosting an outdoor concert DJ like set. So the community can come out, bring a blanket, bring your picnic basket, sit out in the park, and listen to these teens who've learned how to DJ through the last several weeks of this class with Spark Studios.
Yeah. And I can't remember, was it Papa Anthony Papa?
Papa,
Yeah. Yeah. And he was saying one of the things that they found successful is they really allow the teens to kind of take ownership of their program.
Yes.
And they do the stuff that they're interested in. And so if you can allow them, because these are young adults, they're kind of coming into that age and capabilities where they can really do a lot of the work of running their programs.
Yes.
And especially if they're suggesting the type of programming, that's where y'all have been successful in getting that really good engagement and creating a thriving teen community.
Yeah. One more fun thing I wanted to share, in addition to what you just said, there was a really cool entrepreneurship program that operated last summer out of Graco Park through Spark Studios. And it was all about art entrepreneurship. And each of the youth that were engaged in the program, I want to say there was maybe 10 different teens that came in, and they each got to choose their own project. And through the project, it was developing a business. They learned how to do that. They learned how to expand within their art form. And that program actually just won a state award through MRPA. Wow. And it was really cool to see it operate out of Graco Park.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so I want to do a special show just on Spark Studio and really try to get that
we'll get Rachel. She'll come in and talk all about it. She's the director of Spark Studios. So because everything I've heard y'all describe, I think every community in America already has what they need to do it. They just need the roadmap. Right. And so if we could just present the roadmap, here's what y'all did, here's what year one looked like, here's where we are today, and everything in between, that this could absolutely be replicated across the entire country. Yeah. Yep. I love it.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
We'll connect you. I'll make sure you get connected with Rachel.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So then your primary role, you're kind of over the downtown area, correct?
Yeah, the downtown area and the Central Mississippi Riverfront. So my team, I have 2 full-time event coordinators that operate programs and events that happen along, like, Central Mississippi River is the stretch of the Mississippi that runs kind of through our northeast community all the way down to like the bottom end of downtown. And I have probably anywhere from 20 to 40 provisional staff that help bring our parks to life every day. There's 8 parks that we're currently doing programming activation in. The 3 main parks are all almost brand new parks. the Commons was built like late, like I want to say 2015, 2016 is when the project really took off. 2019, 2020 is when the park board took ownership of that. That's got its own interesting history of how it was transferred over to the park board. Still really new park. Waterworks Pavilion, which is a really great tourist spot right along the river. That actually used to be 2 old flour mills that then became a restaurant called Fujiya. The history of it is amazing. That restaurant really transformed the riverfront, and it went from industrial refuse, places people didn't even want to go to. Once that restaurant went in and took over the river, people saw it differently. The riverfront became a desirable place to be. And now it's a park. So there's really cool history at Waterworks Pavilion. That one opened in like 2021 timeframe. And then Graco Park opened last year. And that one is brand new. It used to be an old lumber yard, the Scher Brothers lumber yard. Minneapolis was really built on flour milling and lumber milling. So cool histories in those parks. But most of my parks that we program at are like almost brand new parks, which I'm really lucky because our park system really is quite old. 1883 is when the Board of Commissioners became a thing for our city. So.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's one of the things I noticed. My first ever media company was in the Bitcoin space. And when I went to the national convention, as kind of like they gave us press passes, and I was expecting us to be maybe the only one talking about Bitcoin. There was like 42 other media companies all just getting the word out about how this is revolutionizing the world. And I got to thinking back about my Parks and Rec days. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. And they have this is over 100-year-old industry. And in your case, that's almost getting to be 150 years old.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And nobody's telling the stories about it. So that was kind of the inspiration for us to create this media company for this industry, to just talk about the great work that's going on inside of Parks and Rec in every city in America.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And thank you for this opportunity to allow me to come in and talk about Minneapolis and our historical spaces and cool parks that we have now for the community to come out and gather. Yeah.
And so let's talk more about, because it's a very common problem where a Parks and Rec professional will inherit a very beat up downtown, maybe even to where there's high crime going on. No one wants to be there. They just avoid the downtown. And then someone like yourself comes in and says, all right, let's turn this boat around. What were those early days like? And, what were you facing back then? And what were some of your first steps to kind of turn that around?
That's a really great question. The Commons Park was one of the very first parks that my team took on. And we were coming right out of COVID and George Floyd time in Minneapolis. And the park itself was one of the highest violent crime parks in our system. It was talked about at every supervisor meeting. Our police chief would come in and talk about it. We were actually able to secure a grant through the DOJ for additional staffing and activation in that park space. And through the last couple of years, I tell my team, we have this philosophy of like the lights are on and everybody's home. We have staff in the park. We set up yard games every day. There's food trucks out there. We have trivia over the lunch hour. And this past year, a couple of months ago, I should say, when our police chief was talking about crime stats, the Commons wasn't even mentioned at all.
What?
Made that big of a change. So
congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thanks. He said that the park's done a complete 180, which, as our police chief, he doesn't get to be on the glass half full side of things very often. So that really meant a lot coming from him. And it's a true testament to my staff who love what they do, talking to people every single day in the park, letting people know that they're safe to come out and be here. And having all the activation has really helped keep that crime out and away.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing I'd like you to talk about is, unfortunately or fortunately, during COVID, many Parks and Rec departments across the country got labeled as non-essential. And so, but we're going to keep the police and fire and the hospitals open because they're essential. But they are essential on the reactive side of building a community. But on the preventative side, Parks and Rec is absolutely essential because the police don't really have a way to do the work that you just did to make it to where, like, to transition it from high crime to we're not even mentioning it anymore. So maybe talk about the essential service that Parks and Rec provides on creating a healthy community and being more to the preventative side of community building.
Yeah. That community connections piece is a really big part of what my team does. We talk a lot, when we do planning about urban loneliness and folks who don't know their neighbors downtown, because it's just not how a lot of downtown spaces are structured. So we really do try to provide programming for people to make connections with one another. And prime example of the last 6 months in Minnesota and in Minneapolis of how important it is to know your neighbors and to come together as a community of people. It is essential, and it has drawn enough attention worldwide, actually, that we have an art installation that's going in our park, Boom Island Park, next week, actually. An artist is coming from France, and he's doing an art installation for, it's two hands that essentially do this. They interlock. And he takes a hand from the previous city and carries it over to the next, and then he adds a new hand. And it's all about this human connection that happens through public spaces. He's done them in front of the Eiffel Tower and the pyramids of Giza. It's 22 different cities around the world. He's never done this project in the United States before.
No way.
When he reached out to us, he said, I intentionally chose Minneapolis. We've seen Minneapolis on our news in France, and he just felt really called to the way that Minnesotans and Minneapolis really stands up for their neighbors and connects with one another, and how important our public spaces are. Our parks are recognized. Our park system is known to be one of the best in the country. And so it was really special honor for us thinking about that connection piece with community and how important parks are. The service that we provide for the public is so important that it actually is drawing worldwide attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, really excited about that. And it is always at the root of everything we do for programming, thinking about how we can get people to connect with one another on that level where it's not just, oh, there's another human in this park over there, but actually getting to meet one another and exchanging contact information and really having those important touch points. Yeah, talking about essential or non-essential, I really feel like that this is a very essential thing for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm somewhat of an amateur gardener, and it's like the best soil has all this like death and decay and rot, but out of that just comes the most vibrant flowers. And so I see our city as just struggling, but sometimes that's the most fertile ground to really take a stand, turn it around, and reclaim your community like y'all have done. So
that's a really beautiful comparison. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we're going to take a little short break. I would like to highlight our latest show sponsor for one of our individual shows. Jordan Ziff created her sports, or with her sports, she created the Athletes Commute. So she's a former pro athlete that played soccer at the highest level for Brazil, which we all know they take soccer pretty seriously in Brazil. And when she came back from that part of her career, she was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could pick up my favorite pro athlete and give him a ride to the game or the practice, and like a behind the scenes. And so she does the whole show from her car. And she recently got a sponsorship from University of San Diego, and so we made a little commercial for her. And then we're also gonna big shout out to Outdoor Link, which is one of the great companies that serves the Parks and Rec community, helping Parks and Rec departments become smart parks so that you can efficiently control your infrastructure all through the internet and your iPhone or smart devices or even a desktop. So Carla, why don't you go ahead and play those two promos, and we'll come back and finish up our conversation with Kristina.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly. From lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right. So we have a little video queued up. Why don't you tell people what they're getting ready to see?
Yeah, so the video is a little virtual tour of Graco Park. Graco Park, as I mentioned, is a brand new park. It has a lot of significance in the history of Minneapolis and where it sits on the Mississippi River. There was a lot of work that was done to restore the ecology of this site. The Mississippi River was actually dredged and Hall's Island was put back in. There were actually several different islands that ran all along the Mississippi River in the stretch of the central Mississippi riverfront. And so the space itself is beautiful. I wanted to just show you it's a little park walkthrough. And then maybe after the video, I'll talk about some of our other brand new park spaces that are coming online that my team's doing programming at.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you talk about the Mississippi River. I grew up on side of the river. I used to swim in it when I was a little kid. And now I live in New Orleans, which is just another great river city.
That's what I was like, this is so fun because I'm at one end of the Mississippi and you're at the other. I can look out the window right now and see the Mississippi River. So yeah, it's a great one.
All right, let's go ahead and play this and then we can chat about it after. Let
Great.
me get to, where was that? Nope, that's not it. Well,
if it wants to play, right? The technology.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
All right, I think I found it. All right.
This is the studios and down the hall here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's the skyline, so very periphery to downtown. The courtyard classroom We use it for like school groups that visit. There's Halls Island. There's a little channel, but then walking up and you see the Mississippi. We filmed all of this in April, so you can see there's no leaves on the trees this time of year.
Yeah.
Now it's bright green and beautiful. So this park, along with others, is kind of a blank slate, right? We host this terrace lawn area. We have concerts. This is where that DJ set will happen. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. God, it just shows the potential of Parks and Rec when they,
A lot of
when they,
potential.
yes.
And some other cool things about this park, it's there's a geothermal system within the building and the sidewalks outside, so we don't have to use as much salt. In the wintertime, being so close to the river, we don't want that salt ending up, in the riverway. So geothermal inside the building, heating the building, and outside on the sidewalks. There's solar panels. It's a net zero building. So actually all the energy that's produced from the building is what actually operates and runs the building space. A lot of really cool green initiatives with this park. And it was, I think, sort of a trial run for the park board to see if we can continue with a lot of those technologies in some of our other park spaces. I loved hearing you talk about smart parks. Another park that is going under construction this year that is under my team is North Loop Park. And the park board has partnered with Toro. So there's actually self-emptying garbage cans and sensors in the ground that will test the hydration of the soil and will only turn the sprinklers on when it's needed. And lawnmowers that mow the grass themselves. So it's not, it's a very low maintenance park space. It's sort of one of those things that's the future of parks. And I'm excited that my team gets to do the programming and activation at that park once it's all done.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Y'all are becoming like a model.
Well, it is awesome to see so much enhancements in the park spaces with technology and, Spark Studios, the cool technology there, the solar panels and, the geothermal systems at Graco, and now North Loop Park, the technology going in. It's a really cool thing, I think, for the future of Park and Rec.
Yeah, because let's say a park with crime at night and is filthy and dirty and old and hadn't gotten love for 50 years. It can be a place no one wants to live by. But if a park's run well, it can be a community hub. People the real estate goes up when you're next to the right park. And I think y'all are basically taking it and creating a great example of what other communities can do to turn around these parks.
Absolutely adds value to the buildings and the spaces around. Another park that's coming online in July. It's been around for a very, very long time. It's called Gateway Park. It's actually just across the Hennepin Bridge, which was the very first bridge across the Mississippi. I think I talked about that earlier. And for that park space has a fountain and some concrete slab and some green grass, but we are bringing in converted shipping containers, so it's a stage that opens up. We can store the tables and chairs in overnight, so we'll have tables and chairs, food trucks, live music, yard games, staff, and there's a brand building that just sold right next door. The project is called 20 Washington. It's this historical site. It's very beautiful. The design of it is well done, but it's been sitting vacant for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years.
Mm.
Finally sold last year, and developers are seeing the value that parks are adding. So I had a meeting with the owner of that building, and we've talked about how we can coordinate our efforts around that space to really enhance the park for the community to come out. What kind of programming can we do? He's very interested in winter programming. So we're talking right now about how we can do winter programming at Gateway Park to enhance what's being done. So I think one of my favorite parts of my job is really getting to know the business community in and around the park spaces and finding ways to partner and work together and support each other, because I think we all understand that ecosystem, right? We all need each other. We need each other to perform well. And when we work together, everybody wins, right? The downtown space becomes more vibrant. People want to come downtown. They want to spend their money downtown. The economy in and around that space goes up. The vacancies go down, which is one of the problems in Minneapolis. We have a lot of vacant building spaces. And then in turn, that will generate more tax money that comes in, which helps support our park and rec. So it's really this intricate system, but we all need each other. The businesses, the park spaces, we work together to try to make it great for the community.
Yeah. And I like it's kind of like a circular economy that one feeds the other and it all comes back around. And like you said, if a part of a city can just get a solid anchor to just say, put a stake in the ground and say, here's what we're going to do. And is there anything else that y'all would like to do to contribute? Then all of a sudden these business owners and landowners and they just come out of the woodwork and say, oh, well, if you're going to do this, then we'll start investing our money. And then how can we help y'all with y'all's program? But the cities through the Parks and Rec department can be that kind of first flag where they can, here's what we're going to do. And then the rest just starts thriving all around it.
I sit on like 4 or 5 different committees or groups that's what we're doing, is we're trying to find ways to enhance each other and the work we do. In fact, one of the newest ones is all about event producers who come into the city of Minneapolis. And it can be kind of hard with the bureaucracy and, trying to figure out I'm going to submit a permit to the city, but then I have to submit a permit to the parks. And then I have to get, police at my event, and how can I find sponsors? And it can be a little bit challenging to host events in a major, metro area. And so this group is all about saying yes and trying to greenlight the process for event producers who come into the city. And for me, being a representative for downtown parks, when groups want to come in and host a concert at a downtown park, being that point person who can connect them with the resources to be able to come in and host that event successfully. Yeah. So it's so great to see the teamwork that's happening right now across the entire city. It's elected officials, it's business owners, it's agencies like the park board that are really coming together to enhance the city space.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay to be a little challenging. Parks and Rec professionals eat a little bit challenging for breakfast every day.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
They figure stuff out. And a lot of times you just need, notice where you're at, and then you can create this vision over there. And to me, Parks and Rec builds a bridge from where we are today to where we want to be as a community. And they're able to do all that red tape and find ways and find funding and create partnerships. And to me, that's one of the things that Parks and Rec brings to the table is they figure out a way to build the bridge from where you are today to where you want to be.
That's right. And I always tell my team this too, like to add on, parks mean something different to everybody. People like parks for all different kinds of reasons. I just got done conducting almost 70 interviews for our attendant position. And in those interviews, listening to each person who wants to work for the parks come in and talk about what parks mean to them. And everybody's got a different answer. I think that's really beautiful. And so trying to find that sweet spot where we're really touching on all of those different things that people love, providing green space and nature and a blank spot for people to come and engage. That Graco video really showed lots of different potential of spaces within one, 9-acre park footprint. But, also having activation and events. We host markets. We're hosting a plant swap coming up at Graco. We do kayak and canoe like safety classes, and have a launch point for people to get in the water right there and learn how to kayak and canoe on the Mississippi. We have fishing classes that happen there. We do bike repair maintenance classes because we're right along a really great stretch of parkway, where people ride their bikes all up and down. We have a run club that runs through there. We've got several thriving run clubs in and around downtown Minneapolis, which I love. Wednesday nights, there's like 400 people that all come into Graco Park and run the trails and use the restrooms there. And what I love too is afterwards they'll sit and eat together outside on the picnic tables, and you just see that togetherness. And sometimes you see people come in and they just want to be alone in the park, right? They go down by the river and they sit in those chairs and they just want to watch the river or read a book. Parks provide all of that for everyone. So there's I could go on and on about that. It just makes me excited.
I love it. Yeah. And a little hack for those single people out there that can't find a good significant other at the bar room. Did you know that a lot of these cities are starting to have these thriving run clubs, and they're almost operating as like places for single people to meet? That's, in a healthy environment. And a lot of these are just kind of pop up. So
talk about community building, right?
Yeah.
Our run club actually started. I have a social media team, and last year, each of my 4 staff persons were putting together a campaign, and McKenna, one of my staff members, said, I really want to explore Strava as a social media platform. And if you're not familiar with Strava, it's like, fitness. You can track your runs and bike and, walks and things like that. And then you have people who cheer you on, and it's a social media platform used to be able to engage. So we started out with Strava, and she started, just once a month putting a run club together. She put a couple of routes up on the club in Strava, and people started following along. And then it was like, wow, people really like this. And we're getting a lot of folks coming out and running along, the river. Part of it is, I think people have that perception of maybe it's not as safe running downtown. Well, now we've got a club. And so people come out, it's free to join. We've been adding several dates throughout the summer. We actually added it to our 4th of July celebration. My team hosts the programming piece of the 4th of July along the central Mississippi, like right over the water. You can see fireworks, and we've got programming starting at 8 a.m. with our run club group, all the way till 10 p.m. when the fireworks launch. So that run club piece has been very popular. And then we started posting about it on Instagram, and then that took off even more. And so it's a cool thing. Run clubs are a really great way to meet people, to develop friendships. We've had a lot of people brand new who move to the city. Downtown, we kind of get a lot of business people who move in from out of state, or maybe they're visiting from out of state, and they see the flyer in the park and they show up and run with us. And it's really cool to meet all these different folks coming together.
Yeah. And these clubs, so I belong to a group which I actually met through a Parks and Rec director in North Carolina. As we were talking, he said, you need to join F3. And it's like an all men's workout group that we work out at like 5:30 in the morning. And,
I love it.
And there's a lot of female runners that kind of run the same park, and they've come up to us and said, we feel safer that y'all are here.
Yeah. When there's people around, our spaces feel safer. And I think that's a very common theme. I talked about it at the Commons, but it's a very common theme in all of our park spaces. And I think could be applied to many urban, park and rec departments across the country, is that when you have people, when you have groups gathering that are, there for a reason, whether it's they're painting together in the park, or they have book club in the park, or they're working out, everyone else around feels safer. It's that sense of community when you realize you're not the only one out engaging in the park.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so we, between F3, the run clubs, the pop-up yoga classes in the parks, but then also these art festivals and farmers markets. I mean, they're just, it's like community's just thriving, and it's just like a happening place. I mean, in New Orleans, we have a lot of this stuff going on, but maybe talk about what are some of the other programs and stuff that might not be running in other cities that y'all have found.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the markets, and I think a lot of people do markets, but something special about our makers market that we host, Ashling, one of my coordinators, came in. She's like, I want to do a makers market, but I want the entry price to be very low. I want this to be for brand new people starting out who are entrepreneurs, and they're trying to build their brand, their shop, if you will. And it's been insanely popular. We always have hundreds of people on the wait list. We sell out the markets within 5 minutes of opening. So now it's become a whole thing where people get ready for it. We send out emails ahead of time. And it's this great launching point we have young youth, we've got I think our youngest was 12 at our last market that we did. And they do dog biscuits and pet beds. And they're just these young entrepreneurs out there saying, hey, do you have a dog? Come on over here. Do you know a dog? It's just so cute. So, I think markets is kind of a unique thing. We also host adult art classes that it's all focused, the classes are all focused on sustainability. So we teach, an embroidery type class. It's like visible mending is what it's called, where you can mend your jeans and you sew it together, but then there is a design that you put on it, or finding ways to repair clothing or shirts in a fun way that it upcycles the item. It makes it wearable again. We've done a couple of other fun projects with a local artist, Alec. He comes in and teaches these classes, and it's sustainability based. The other really unique one I have to talk about is pickleball on the Parkway. I actually just wrote an article for NRPA magazine talking about the event. Our Parkway is intended for vehicle traffic. But last year we shut it down. We put in 30 temporary pickleball courts along the central Mississippi. So you're looking out right over the Mississippi River, and then you have the downtown buildings right on the other side of the road. And we ran a tournament. We partnered with a local pickleball club. They took maybe 15 courts and ran a tournament. And then we had open play. We had instructors on site. So people who were just biking up and down the Parkway, Saturday, they're going to the farmer's market, they're walking through, and we're saying, come on over and try pickleball. Obviously, pickleball it's growing in popularity. So a lot of people have heard of it and know about it. But the event was so well received and the community loved it so much. We actually went out for a state award, MRPA. We just got an award of excellence for that event that we hosted. And we're going to host it again this year in September. So, just trying to get creative with spaces. In my downtown parks, I don't really have courts or, places for people to come play traditional sports. And so we get creative with them. We find ways for folks to come out. In this case, we took a road and turned it into pickleball courts because we don't have any designated courts in town spaces. So it's all about getting creative with what we have and trying to listen to the community, take the feedback, and then turn it into, an event or a program that people can come engage with.
Yeah. I had a previous guest on the show, and when we talked about his why, he said, I am the connector of my community. And he highlighted the arts market that they had. He said, many of these artists are, your typical starving artists, and they just want to find a way to make a living doing what they love, making their art. And now that they have these weekly art festivals, that they'll get discovered by their community. And many of them have gone on to actually have a brick and mortar studio, but they all started with a little pop-up tent at an art market.
I love that. That's exactly what our markets are too. I love that. Yep.
That's fantastic. Okay. So I can't wait to hear your answer to this one. So imagine you're sitting in front of a group of college kids that are undecided, don't know what they want to do with their life, don't know what to go, don't know what to major in. Not that there's any of those out there in the country. What would be your testimony to them as why they may want to consider Parks and Rec as a career path?
Yeah, I think there's something for everybody in Parks and Rec. And I actually have sat in front of college kids quite often.
There you go.
Sometimes they're looking at changing their career. And I just think no matter what you end up doing, it's so important to find a career that you believe in, something that you can do work that feels meaningful to you. I have a lot of friends who, started out in the workforce doing work that midway through now in their careers, they're considering changing path because they just don't feel like their work is meaningful. And Park and Recreation, our work always feels meaningful. Every single day, there is touch points with the community that you really do feel the significance and the impact of the work that you do. And my entire team would stand here in front of you and say that. In fact, I had a meeting yesterday with my leaders. They're kind of my captains of the team. And they were saying the same thing. We were talking about a social media feature and featuring some of our regular park users that come in the parks. And the regulars are all different people from all different walks of life. And the work we do that drastically impacts, their lives. It really means a lot to me, and it means a lot to my staff. I had a social media staff member last year who he's like, you completely changed my career trajectory, Kristina. He's like, I was on path. I wanted to work in the pro sports industry. He's like, I want to do a marketing internship with them. I want to do all these things. And I came in and I did this social media internship with you, and you completely changed my trajectory. Wow. Now he works full-time for the city of West St. Paul, doing social media. So I think the biggest thing for those young people who are really looking at their future path is to think about what brings meaning to your life. And if you can work, not that it doesn't feel like work, right? Some days do feel like work, but if you do what you love, it keeps you going every day. It gives you the energy. It wakes you up in the morning. It makes me excited. I spend a lot of nights this time of year logging back on my computer because I have meetings all day long. I log back in at night after my kids go to bed and do more work. And it's just, I do it because I love it. I don't have to do that, right? We don't have to host as many events as we do. We don't have to do as much programming as we do. My team does so much. If you look at our calendar, it's packed all the way through. We have events in almost all of our parks every single day this time of year. But really what keeps us going is that love of community and the pride in what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not that your job is easy. It's that because it's fulfilling, the heart's doing the heavy lifting because you love it. And so you're able to carry a heavy load because it's your heart carrying the load. You're not just doing it for the paycheck, but you're getting fed on so many other levels and you're making a difference, building community. And gosh, this is the industry for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So we have a little tradition on the back end of our show. Our previous guest leaves a question to my next guest. So this one comes from Juan Montez from LaGrange Park, Illinois.
Okay.
And he said, with Parks and Rec changing so much, and this could be in the technology side or all the things that we could have to offer, where do you see Parks and Rec in the next 5 years?
That's a good question. I think what we see with our eyes is going to continue changing, right? We talked about the smart parks, and I think about, Graco Park and some of the other brand new parks that have come on. What they look like, I think, has changed a lot. But I think what isn't changing is the human piece and the connection that we have with each other, and the programming we do changes, right? Like pickleball is something that's really taken off and people love pickleball. Maybe 5-10 years from now, it'll be something else. But still the sense of community and the coming together in our park spaces, I don't think that will ever change. And that's the good stuff, right? That's really where, I think the love of what we do and love of parks comes together. So.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think, honestly, this year we entered in the age of abundance. And I think we're starting to see that roll out with the technology and robotics and AI coming in, providing value at such a scale that we're going to have abundant cities. And what do we do with that abundance? I think Parks and Rec is going to thrive in that future. And I'm seeing it in your park and everything you've told me today.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Kristina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I can see us potentially producing content with y'all once a month just to highlight everything that's going on.
I love it. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah, maybe we could partner with y'all's media team and just do a monthly show, because there's just so many great things that y'all can talk about as giving other communities a great roadmap to follow. Saying, look, you don't even have to invent it. Just repeat what we did here. We're seeing the success real time. And Parks and Rec professionals are so good at just sending people the playbook across the country saying, here's how we ran our farmers market.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Make sure you do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And thank you. That's a wonderful compliment for Minneapolis parks. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming on the show today, and keep up the great work. You're doing an awesome job, and you really, I think, are a great role model for the rest of the community.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thanks for your work.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, man, that was a killer show. I love it. Just seeing what goes on in these cities across America. And I know a lot of time, I kind of wanted to get into how they tackled the deferred maintenance, because a lot of these big old cities just have almost an insurmountable deferred maintenance thing they have to, that they inherit. And they seem to be doing a really good job. So maybe we can kind of dig into that story and kind of show the rest of the country how they're climbing these mountains that they've been given, and just to show people that it's possible. And sometimes that's just the first thing you need. You just need to know that it can be done. It's kind of like that. I think long ago they said 4-minute mile was impossible for a human to do. Their heart would explode if they tried it. And then one guy did it. And then I think since then there's been 4,000 people that have broken the 4-minute mile, but it was just somebody just had to say it can be done, and they would do it. And so I think Minneapolis, Minnesota is just a great example of a city that, at times might have been struggling, but they just rolled up their sleeves and just did it. And so to me, that's just a great example of what can be done when a community comes together. And so I just think it's a great example. So great job, Kristina. Thank all the team over there. Let's see if we can get the word out more and just kind of sound the alarm on how to turn your city around and how to create thriving communities. They're doing a great job doing it. So really appreciate you coming on the show today. Looking forward to creating more content with you in the future. All right, so that's all we have for Leadership Series today. And I don't think we have a show scheduled after this, but tomorrow we have this again. I have another great guest coming on. And then immediately following that, we have our Youth Sports Mastery show, and then the Director Pepper Club on Friday with our Aquatics Life show. So lots of great content for the Parks and Rec community. Thank you, everybody, from the bottom of my heart for supporting the work that we're doing, highlighting what's going on in Parks and Rec across America. It really is an amazing story to tell. And thank you for allowing us to help tell it. It really is your story. It's your community story. It's your life journey. And as a group of digital artists, there's about a dozen of us working full time to build this thing. And we could not do it without the love and support we get from the Parks and Rec community and the vendor community that puts fuel in the tanks. So thank you. Big shout out to all of our vendors that support us and the work we're doing. All right. So that's all I have for y'all today. Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, signing off again. We will see y'all here again tomorrow. Y'all have a great day. Love you guys. Thanks. Bye.
They say it's Just Rec. Just Rec, where kids learn to try again. Just Rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, Plus, email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom-branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.